Hello, well, Renaissance Workshops, Peter Harris here, and this is a quick follow-up to pouring the silicone to make a mold for my green man. And here is the resulting mold, all cut as I showed in the cutting open video. And here is some of the graphite powder which I have already spread on this mold, and that helps to, well, I think it helps the casting. And this is because I misjudged just how close to put the original in the glass case. So it's got a very thin edge here, and yes, here, and the pewter was leaking out when I just tied it with wire, which is my usual trick. The usual trick is tying the mold with wire, and it works beautifully with and there it is there, and I just tuck the tie wire into the silicone. It's very neat, very quick, works brilliantly for thicker walled, circular, or even just thicker walled molds like this one for a ring. That was, oh no, that's the Renaissance Workshops medallion mold. But anyway, this here is the mold that I'm going to attempt to pour a nice pewter cast from. So I found that because it was such a thin wall and also very long flat sides, the tying didn't work very well. So this is a mother mold, as they usually call them, which is simply a mold around a mold. So you pour something like plaster. This is plaster with a bit of fiber in it, and plaster of Paris, I should say. And I'm now just going to clamp it fairly tight, fairly snugly. This was cast in a little carton. And I forgot that, well, I somehow misjudged, and it's not quite high enough, but it doesn't matter because this is just the sprue, and if it leaks a little bit out the cracks, it doesn't matter. So I usually heat up the pewter for a small pour just with this trade flame ultra gas, otherwise it's called map gas, I think. But it's very quick. It's got an automatic start button, and you have to turn on the gas, of course, and I always turn it off in between sessions. So there it is. So I'm just getting some old scrap pewter, which is about a fifth as much, or even a tenth as much as buying it as ingots, and the ingots are about $100 New Zealand a kilogram, but probably more like $10 a kilogram if you get just old dinged old pewter that isn't really worth anything as an artifact. So normally I would have a free hand, and I'd have it actually down quite low, reasonably low, and it melts very quickly, as you see. I don't worry about little bits of dross or paper burning or whatever on top, because it all stays on the surface when I cast. So I will probably be running out of pewter if I don't put some more in. So I've just put some more in. There goes the price sticker. It's probably only $2. And there it goes, all melted. Boom, just like that. So I think I've got enough pewter. It's always good to have a little bit more melted rather than a bit less, because if you don't fill it right up to the top of the sprue, you might get, with the shrinkage as it cools, you might get not enough. And so now I've got this Common Garden sort of vibrator that I got for a song, and I just vibrate the mold as I pour. So pouring it in fairly smartly, and with a bit of luck it's got enough to go to the top. Yes, it does. So there we are, just a bit of just a little bit of vibrating seems to help quite a lot. There's a bit of steam in there. I'm not sure what that is. Could have been a bit of moisture. It's important to keep the mold dry, of course, and to have it coated, nicely coated with, I find the graphite powder helps a lot with the casting, the detailing, and probably protects the silicone surface a bit. I'm not totally sure on that, but I have a hunch that it does. So okay, this is a hand mirror that we actually made. Here's oh, up there I was going to show some of our little treasure trove of those are the some of the pewter that we've got ready to melt down ruthlessly and to create all kinds of mold. This is a tiki cast in pewter, which is sitting there waiting for fettling, and the fettling is what you do after you have pulled the piece out of the mold, which I'll do shortly. You always want to wait until it's definitely crystallized, in other words, cooled down enough to completely solidify, because otherwise if you pull it out before it's fully crystallized, it might look solid, but it's crumbly, and it just turns to kind of crumbly like cake, and so you basically have to remelt, and then it comes back out just as good as new, but you have to redo everything. So we'll see how I've done with this cast. Very quick impromptu video. I actually lost CapCut, did a nice little edit on CapCut last night late, and then poof, it just went. And I downloaded an app to that is supposed to find things that have been lost on a phone, and still nothing. It's vanished into the ether. So I'm redoing that video, hopefully. And so now I'm just undoing this clamp and assuming that it will be nicely cooling. Of course, the mold, as I open it, I let some of the hot air out, and that just might help to be quite sure. It's embarrassing when you have a complete fail on camera, but no harm done if you do. It's a learning curve. You learn how far you can push things by going beyond. So anyway, this mother mold is snugly fitting in there, because not by any accuracy of mine, but by virtue of the fact that we poured it around the silicone mold, so it of course fits perfectly and holds everything in. No sign of leakage. So I'm now just easing it out of that mother mold. There we go. And let us see what treasure lies within. I might stop the video once I have got the piece out, but I will comment. Whoa, look at that. Out you go. Yep. Sometimes if it's still a bit hot, I might use something like pliers. Whoops. And there he goes in all his sylvan glory. And of course I use a sort of side cutters I'll just pull them right out. Whoops. I'll pull them right out there, and not bad. There's a lump there and a lump there, which will have to be cut off and fettled. That is like filed down, and then the grooves cut to imitate where the carving has been lost. That is a common problem when you are not completely expert in making molds and don't do it every day. But okay, here's a side cutter which I put a piping on to give me much more leverage, which is necessary when you're doing a bronze casting, not so much for pewter, because pewter is 90-something% tin and it's quite soft. It does harden, it work hardens, as they say. So there we go. I've got the The sprue is off, and now it'd be a matter of filing that smooth and getting rid of those imperfections, which some of them, like that blocky imperfection there, came from probably where this didn't get tucked right in neatly. Ideally, you have a neater cut than that. But as you see, it's amazing what you can get, even if it's very imperfect, as this mold is. So I think that's about it for now. I'll show the ball peen hammer, which I did use, and you'll see in the finished product, which I did a couple yesterday, and last night I took a little video about that, so I'll add that to this video. And so the ball peen, the idea is, if it's very highly polished with fine sandpaper, or I use a sanding disc, very fine, up to 2000 grit, and just sand all over it, and then even end with a flap wheel of cotton with rouge on it, and get a really polished finish on the hammer. And then if the hammer is polished, then every blow that you do on the metal will also be polished, so the dull surface becomes highly pockmarked with shiny dings. Beautiful effect you can get. Well, I can show, I don't know if you can see, it's funny, the camera doesn't seem to show the shiny stuff very well. It just tends to get completely overawed by shininess. But anyway, there we are. I think any other pearls of wisdom that I should add? Oh, these side cutters, these are a particularly good one. They're very sharp, and of course you can sharpen them. And sometimes, yes, I grind so that there's no I grind one side so it's completely flush there, and that you can do that with side cutters to make it easier to just go right in and pinch and cut off, pinch and cut. But there's so many little things that go into a convenient setup. I will, make sure the matte gas is off, and I will just mention the simplicity of this. It's just a very cheap ladle from a kitchen originally, and I just used pliers to make a little pourer on the side, and it's sitting on a piece of basically fire brick stuff. It's porous material. It's don't really need it for something like pewter, because the melting point is only 300 and something, and very cool to be able to get your waste if you're messy like me and spill some pewter. You just chuck it back in the ladle and remelt, and it's wonderful. And sometime I'll do a video on how to make little coin blanks. So wonderful metal, mostly tin. Probably my ancestors in Cornwall, some of them were involved in this mining of tin. The Romans got it from there, from Cornwall, and it ran out at they closed the last mine, I think, in the 60s. But anyway, wonderful stuff. It all looks like silver, and it keeps its polish reasonably well, especially if you're handling it. And if you're looking for second-hand pewter, if you are not sure whether it's pewter, it's sort of got a duller ring to it. Hear that? Duller. It will have a hallmark of some kind, and it'll say even what kind of pewter it is, or where it's made in England, half pint, I think that says, yeah. And but yeah, there are plenty of telltale signs. Some of these things that you get that are like toy-like look like pewter, but they're probably a different animal, higher melting point with zinc, and not the stuff that you want for casting in into a silicone. So it's 8:15 by my old clock there, and I'm, as promised, just adding a little short video to the the casting of the Green Man in pewter, and here is one of the ones I did a bit earlier, and that is a finished pewter Green Man with shadowing done with just a spray can of black and then wiped off before it gets completely hardened, wiped off with a rag. And you'll notice that it's all fettled, of course, and it's got a little bit of dimpling, like planishing, is it called? Yeah, anyway, it's the hammered finish from the small ball peen hammer, and it's been sanded with 1500 to 2000 grit, just lightly on the main surfaces like the snake and the head and the face and the beret and the cross. And basically it took, I suppose, about half an hour to fettle it, to smooth it, and then polish, and then put some black on and wipe it off. So, and then of course tire the usual sort of thing for hanging it, a hanging cord, probably not round the neck. It is quite heavy, 189 grams, I seem to remember. So that's basically the saga complete with those videos. This is the conclusion. So I'm signing off from our little cabin here in the Antipodes, and it's nice and warm, and I've just had kumara and leek soup with chicken, and we're recovering from colds and actually self-isolating because my Raywin, my wife, has got tested positive. Very mild case.